Hello, Giant Musty's here, and I'm back after seeing Shin Godzilla for my third time. But before I see it for a fourth and final time, I need to get my review out there. Needless to say, I found this movie to be a kaiju classic. In a nutshell, Shin Godzilla tells a story of how Japan views itself in the modern world, and how it needs to adapt to close the door on the ghost of its past and for its future, assuming Japan survives Godzilla's wrath. I'll have more details later in the spoiler section, which I'll warn you of ahead of time. I've come across some complaints on the internet that the pacing was somewhat off balance in part of the film. I never once encountered that problem in any of my three viewings. In my eyes, there was steady flow which never yielded to over-explain events or get sidetracked by subplots. That's one of the things I love about this movie. The dialogue is mature and never treats the audience as being unable to comprehend the matters at hand. The film is sharp and focused on developing the story. While the actors are spot on and there are no annoying or out-of-place characters, the emotional connection is not thrown at you through an out-of-place love story. Instead, you become attached to the sense of hopelessness. Around two-thirds of the way through the movie, I found myself suddenly feeling guilty for cheering for Godzilla. A part of my connection to this film is credited to an astounding soundtrack. This is easily the highest quality of produced music Godzilla has ever been associated with. The film is sprinkled with a variety of sounds, from apocalyptic opera tracks to an upbeat jazzy city theme, and the return of select iconic Godzilla themes. Unfortunately, I was slightly annoyed at one moment earlier in the film. A classic Godzilla tune plays as something special happens. The song is perfectly placed, however I find it to be a little too quiet. Looking back at the original Gojira 1954, the soundtrack was striking and loud. However, this memorable moment has its music toned down ever slightly too much. It's a small gripe, but I had to find a few things to complain about. While on the note of sound, the effects are plentiful. From a Godzilla standard, the repetitive sound effects are kept to a minimum. I may have found a glass shattering effect to be used one too many times, but it's not nearly as noticeable as the 1960s sound effects where the same crashing and crumbling effects were used seemingly in a loop. Since we're on the subject of effects, the CGI is welcoming. I wasn't expecting Hollywood standards. I can believe that this was completely filmed without rubber suits or puppets, but that's not to say that the animation did not pass my expectations. Sure, there was a few moments where the studio seemingly either ran out of time or money, but there was enough detail to keep you in the moment. It's kind of ironic because there are a few moments in this film where the animation surpasses Hollywood in my opinion. This story is grounded in reality, at least as far as a kaiju movie can be. There are some moments that, instead of being explained in a long, preachy exposition, some lesser important events are written off via wisely chosen comedic moments. From this point on, I will advise you to proceed with caution. Spoilers will naturally slip in as I attempt to describe this film. Turn away if you have not yet seen this film and don't want me to ruin the special moments for you. Okay, back to this film's reality standards. One of the comedic transitions hits during Godzilla's first reveal. They tease his dorsal spines, leaving you to expect the usual Godzilla, but his first appearance is shockingly different, leaving the audience, at least the crowds I've attended with, chuckling in surprise. There's a beauty to this reveal that leaves the viewers feeling comfortable with Godzilla, which only sets you up to be caught off guard by the power of Godzilla later in this film. It is this first appearance that gives Godzilla a natural vibe. In the form of a tadpole, Godzilla literally tries to follow his natural instincts by swimming up the streets of a city. At this moment, Godzilla is little more than a nuisance. Long gone are the over-the-top giant robots, spacemen, uncharted jungles, and other far-fetched mysteries of campy 60s and 70s films. The sense of exploration and magic comes from getting to know the completely redesigned Godzilla. I read an article recently about the Alien films, and why the Prometheus sequel was such an opportunity to develop. The point was that when you're dealing with a franchise like Alien or Godzilla, there is nothing unpredictable or new to be told. The 1979 Alien film was comprised of original terror, but the alien characters became so familiar in the sequels that the ideas ran sour. The Prometheus prequels present a chance to head in a different direction. The same is applied to the Shin Godzilla, in that while this is the true Godzilla we know and love, the redesigning was applied in all the right ways. No Godzilla film would be complete without social commentary, and this film has enough to make up for films like Megaguirus. Being an American, I found it interesting to see how mainstream Japan may view the United States. Yes, there is some dialogue in this film that questions Western influence, not nearly as controversial as the remarks made in the 1991 Ghidorah film, but this is the most uneasy subject matter since that film. It's not only the USA that is pulled into question, the spotlight is shown on Russia and China too. There's also some irony in that Japan is fighting to get out of America's shadow, but instantly turns to another country, France, for help. No country should feel offended by the accusations thrown around here, because most of the criticism is aimed at Japan itself. Speaking of international affairs, I can't help but notice that while the Japanese Godzilla films are superior to the American films, there are still some influence from the two US installments that show some impact on the Godzilla legacy. Some obvious inspirations from the 2014 film was the addition of Godzilla's gills and the choice to take the film in a realistic direction. Also, the iconic moment where the tail of Legendary's Godzilla begins to glow blue and crawls up Godzilla's back is felt here, only this time in reverse. I'll probably earn a few dislikes for this, but I would argue that even the 1998 Zilla film has its imprint on this film. While I doubt Toho is making Zilla canon, there is no doubt in my mind that the unorthodox redesign of Zilla had to make Shin Godzilla's second form more possible. If that drastic design had never been done in '98, I find it difficult to believe that Toho would ever have authorized Shin's first appearance to look like this. Just between me and you, I now like to secretly pretend that the '98 Zilla was a Godzilla that never grew to his third or fourth form. After all, the cartoon Zilla had evolved into a standing position more similar to Shin Godzilla's third form. Additionally, Shin Godzilla was unable to use his atomic breath in his second form, just like the '98 Zilla. I like to think that was the director's little nod to the '98 film. But enough with my crazy theories. It's time to wrap up this review with discussing the closing scene and images, as well as sequel talk, yay! The movie wraps up with the idea that the battle is far from over. It had previously mentioned that Godzilla can evolve and spawn from a drop of DNA. And of course, the tale shows the birth of a new species of humanoid kaiju. These skeletons gave me the impression of human souls Godzilla has claimed. They seem to be trying to escape from some sort of hell. One skeleton is clawing its way free, while another appears to be holding its head in pain. Even so, they are now branded with the Godzilla DNA and have become hybrids. As for a sequel, these Godzilla human hybrids might be Godzilla's new adapted form. Godzilla grew larger with each form, which made him an easier target for humans. Could Godzilla's next evolution be to a smaller, more elusive form? Or have they simply not grown fully yet? Would another entirely different Godzilla arise from the ocean? Would the humanoids have their own spin-off film? Or will Toho let Shin Godzilla be its own film and opt for another reboot next? Let me know some of your thoughts for the sequel as well as on this film. There's so much to digest with this film, and so many details that I'm choosing to leave out, because everyone should be able to discover something for themselves. Like I said before, this is a classic by kaiju standards, and so I'm giving this a 10 out of 10. Giant Musties, signing off.